All right, today we're learning about Chapter 1. We're doing a review. On Friday, you're going to have a test. The first topic we cover is 1-1, patterns with exponents and powers of 10. So first, you might have a question like this, 10 to the 4th power, and they want you to write it out, expanded form. So you're going to see that you have 10, and it should be written 4 times. 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Right there will be your answer. Next, 3 times 10 to the 3rd power. You're going to do 3 times 1, which is 3. Now you have to figure out how many zeros. Your exponent is the key. Look at your exponent. How many zeros do I need? 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. I need my comma. Start from the back. 1, 2, 3, comma, 1. Stop here. Only gets 1 comma. The answer is 3,000. Next, I have 5 times 10 to the 2nd power. 5 times 1 is 5. My exponent says I will have 2 zeros. Add my 2 zeros. My answer is 500. Next, 1-2 is understanding whole number place value. So you might have something like this. They want you to add all of this up and give you the answer. We're going to start from the back in the ones place and work forward. In the ones place, I see I have a 3, a 0, and a 0. 3 plus 0 plus 0 is 3. In the tens place, I have nothing, a 2, and a 0. 2 plus 0 is 2. In the hundreds place, I have nothing, nothing, and a 0. 0 plus nothing is 0. Thousands place, I have nothing, nothing, 0. 0 plus nothing is 0. 10,000s place, nothing, nothing, 1. 1 plus nothing is 1. Now I need my comma. Start from the back. 1, 2, 3, comma. My answer is 10,023. Next, you may have it written like this. 4 times 10 to the 4th power plus 6 times 10 to the 2nd power, and you got to figure out the answer. When you have it like this, you need to take it baby steps. This is the expanded form. They want you to give the answer in standard form. First, we're going to do this half. 4 times 1 is 4. Now we need to figure out how many zeros our exponent will tell us. Our exponent says you need 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. We need to add our comma. 1, 2, 3, comma. Our plus sign comes down. Now we're over here. 6 times 1 is 6. We're looking to see how many zeros. Our exponent's telling us 2. 1, 2. Now we need to add it up. Start from the back in the ones place and come forward. 0 plus 0 is 0. 10. 0 plus 0 is 0. 6 plus 0 is 6. Nothing plus 0 is 0. Nothing plus 4 is 4. Now I need my comma. Start from the back. 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, stop. All right. Our answer would be 40,600. Next. Sometimes they might want you to take the number in standard form and put it in expanded form. So if we had the number 5,360, you're going to now write this in expanded form. This part is a part that a lot of my students really need help with, so I would watch closely here. You're going to start with your first number, bring it down. Our first number is a 5. We are going to times it by our base, which is always 10. Now, we need an exponent. To find our exponent, we need to count how many numbers are behind the 5. I see 1, 2, 3. My exponent will be 3. I'm closing the parentheses. I'm adding a plus sign. Open parentheses back up. My next number is a 3. I bring it on down. I'm timesing it by my base number, which is always 10. I need to find my exponent. How many numbers are behind the 3? 1, 2. Add my exponent of 2. Close my parentheses, add my plus sign. Now, I need another parentheses, open them up. I have another number, which is 6. Add my 6 times my base, which is always 10. How many numbers are behind my 6? 1. I can add the exponent of 1 behind my 10, or I don't have to write the 1. Both would be the same. It's your choice. I like to add it so I don't forget. Now I'm going to close my parentheses and I look. My next number is a 0. When all I have is a 0 left, you always skip zeros, or if it's the last thing left, you just stop there. We don't have to add anything with the zeros. So our final answer is right here. So we went from standard form, which is just normal numbers, and then moved to expanded form, where we expanded the number out with our base of 10 and our exponents. Next, they might have 431. You're going to take your first number, which is 4, put it in the parentheses, times it by the base, which is always 10. How many are behind the 4? 2 numbers. My exponent is 2. Close it, add my plus sign, parentheses again. I have a 3. I bring my 3 down, times it by my base, which is always 10. How many numbers are behind the 3? 1. I add my exponent of 1, close my parentheses, add my plus sign. I still have a number left, which is 1. I need to make sure I add my 1. Now, the only time it gets tricky is that last number in a problem. The last number in your problem is always going to be that number, this time it's 1, that number times 1. It's always going to be times 1. So if this said 7, you would take the 7 and you would times it by 1. You take the number, times it by 1 every time, okay? All right, so this would be your final answer. You went from standard to expanded form. Next, sometimes it might ask you the value. So if we have 6,770, and it might want to know the value of the 7s. If it wants to know the value of the 7s, you need to look and see, how many 7s do I have? I see 1, 2. 2 7s. So now I need to write the value for 2 of my 7s. My first 7 is in the hundreds place. The value of that is 700. My second 7 is in the tens place. The value of that is 70. That would be my answer. All right, next. Lesson 1-3 is turning decimals into fractions and fractions into decimals. So first, if we have our decimal, this decimal is read as 7 thousandths because we have a 7 in the thousandths place. We want to turn this into a fraction. I'm going to take the number, which is 7. I'm going to put it on top as my numerator, my number on top. My denominator is going to be whatever place value my last number is in. This time my 7's in my thousandths place. So I'm going to write 7 over 1,000. So 1,000 is in my denominator, my bottom spot. Next, what if I had 8 hundredths? 0.08 is read as 8 hundredths. This one, I'm going to take my number, which is 8. I'm going to put it as my numerator. My denominator, my number on the bottom, is going to be the value of the 8. The value of the 8, it's in the hundredths place. So I'm going to put 100 on the bottom. Next, what if I had 999 thousandths? I'm going to take my number, my whole entire number, my 999, and I'm going to put it on the top in my numerator spot. My denominator is going to be the value of the last 9, the 9 at the very back. It's in the thousandths place. So on the bottom, I'm going to write 1,000. So that is turning decimals into fractions. Now let's work backwards. What if we had 434 over 1,000? Now, when we turn fractions into decimals, what I want my students to do is to first write that top number. They're going to copy down the top number. Now I want them to think, where is my decimal going to go? We know that our last number needs to be in the thousandths place. So let's see if it's in the thousandths place. This 4 is in the thousandths. The 3 is in the hundredths. And the 4 is in the tenths. So that means that this is set up perfectly where my decimal will go here and my 0 will go in front. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Next, what if I had 3 tenths? I'm going to write my number down, then think about my decimal. I need it in the tenths place. The tenths place is right next to the decimal. So that means my decimal needs to be over here on the left side, and my 3 needs to be that spot right next to it. And I'm going to put a 0 in front to hold its spot in the ones place. Then if we have 5 over 1,000, I'm going to write my 5, and I'm going to think, okay, my 5 needs to be in the thousandths place. So let's see. This would be the thousandths. My next spot is a hundredths, then tenths, then decimal, then ones. All those open blanks I have, I'm going to plug in zeros to hold its place. Perfect. Now I know that my 5 is in the thousandths and it is in the correct spot. All right, the next thing we learned about was in 1-4. And in 1-4, it was understanding decimal place value expanded to standard form. All right, so if we have 2 times 1 plus 6 times 1 over 1,000. This is expanded form. We want it to put it in standard form. First thing you're going to do, look at the front. 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is 2. We're going to write our 2. As soon as you see parentheses with a fraction inside of it, that should be your key to know this means this is a decimal. Right now, I know it's going to be a decimal. So I know that my 6 is going to be in my thousandths place. My 6 will be in my thousandths place. So my 2 is a whole number. It gets a decimal. Now behind my decimal, my 6 needs to be all the way in the thousandths place. So we're going to count tenths place, hundredths place, thousandths place. I just said this was a thousandths place, so I'm going to plug in my 6. And I'm going to put zeros to hold the place of the other spots. Next, 3 times 1 plus 3 times 1/10 plus 9 times 1,000. Start from the front. 3 times 1 is 3. Next, I see a fraction. As soon as I see a fraction, I gotta put that decimal down. Now I'm gonna come back. My 3 is in the 10th spot. Let's make sure we put my 3 in the 10th spot. Well, we know my 10th spot is right next to the decimal, so I can go ahead and plug in my 3. Go to my next one, 9. My 9 is gonna be in the thousandths place. Let's make sure we put my 9 in the thousandths place. This would be the hundredths, so it doesn't go there. This is my thousandths, so my 9 would go here. We're going to plug in a 0 to hold its spot. We're moving on to the next one. Next, your student is going to have some questions about the word equivalent. It's very important for your child to know that the word equivalent means equal to. They're going to see that come up a lot at the end of the year when testing starts in math. So if I have the number 2 and 2/10, I want your child to write me 2 more numbers that are equivalent to this, so equal to. So we know that we can add zeros and take zeros away as long as they're at the end. It will not change the value of anything. So if we can add zeros and take them away, why don't we try 2.2? It's still the same value. It's worth exactly the same. Zeros at the end doesn't matter. Or I could write 2.20. Still the same value, but the numbers, as you see, all of these look different, but they all have the same value. Let's try another one. If I had 9 and 5/10, I could write 9.5, same value, looks different. Or I could write 9.500, looks different than the other two, still the same value. Then on 1-5, we worked on comparing decimals. So when we did comparing decimals, they're going to use these different signs to determine which one is bigger if they're equal to each other. So if they have 3 and 692 thousandths, and they're comparing it to 3 and 697 thousandths, when you're comparing decimals, your students are always going to start on the left-hand side. So how we read, left to right. I see a 3, I see a 3. I got to keep going, doesn't tell me anything. I see a 6 and a 6, doesn't tell me anything, I got to keep going. A 9 and a 9, still don't know anything, I got to keep going. A 2 and a 7, those are different. Is my 2 or my 7 bigger? My alligator always wants to eat the bigger number. My 7's bigger, so my sign is going to be open to this side. Next, if they had 7 and 216 thousandths compared to 7 and 203 thousandths, remember we start left to right. Start at the front. I see a 7 and a 7, gotta keep going. A 2 and a 2, gotta keep going. A 1 and a 0. Remember, my alligator always wants the bigger number. Is a 1 or a 0 bigger? My 1 is bigger, so my alligator is going to be open to the 1 side. Next, in 1-6, we learned how to round decimals. This is the newest lesson that we have done. So if I have 16 and 5/10, and the paper tells me that the 6 is underlined, that's the number they want me to round to. I'm going to take this number, I always look to the right. I always look to the right. I have a 5. In order for it to round up, it has to be 5 or bigger. Is this 5 or bigger? Yes. If it's 5 or bigger, I look to my next number and I add 1. Once I do that, I scratch through my 5. I no longer need it. 1 plus 6 is 7. I bring my 1 down. My answer is 17. I will also accept this because it's the same exact value, same exact answer. You can write it with a decimal or not, either way. Let's try another one. What if I had 42 and 78 hundredths? The book told me to round with a 7. I'm going to look to my 8. Is my 8 5 or bigger? Yes. So that means I'm going to go to my 7 and add 1. I cross through my 8 because I no longer need it. 1 plus 7 is 8. Always bring the decimal down. Then my 2 and my 4 come right on down. There's my new answer. Sometimes you might have some that are very long, but it's just as easy. And they said I was going to use my 9. So I'm going to look to the right. I have a 4. My 4 is not bigger than a 5. When it's not bigger than a 5, all I do is scratch through it and everything behind it. My 9 just comes on down, and then everything else just comes straight on down, just like it was. None of it was touched. There we go. All right, now sometimes it'll say you're going to round to the nearest whole number. So for example, if this was the problem and it said the nearest whole number, we know that this side is decimals, this side is whole numbers. The nearest one is the one closest to this decimal. In this case, it's a 4. So I'm going to look at my 4, and I'm going to look next door to my right. I see I have a 7. My 7 is bigger than a 5, so I'm going to add 1. I scratch through my 7. Everything behind it gets scratched through. If it's behind it, I no longer need it. Scratch through it. 1 plus 4 is 5. My 3 comes on down. My answer is 35. I will also accept 35.0. Same thing. All right, guys, I hope this helps, and I hope you study for our test on Friday. Thank you.